Let's speak to Adam Senanu. He is the co-chair of Citizens Movement Against Corruption, and we are privileged for him to join us on the line on 505 this evening. Good evening to you, sir. Very grateful for your time tonight on 505.
Good evening.
I'm sure you've listened to the special prosecutor. Especially, he talked about 4 key issues. We'll talk about the others, especially the one that had to do with the petroleum revenue, where he says over 280 million has been, embezzled, so to speak. Some have channeled some into apartment suites and others. But let's begin with the Kenneth Ofori-Atta issue. Some people said the OSP has been lax in apprehending or approaching this matter. From what you've listened, what do you make of the chronology of events as enumerated by the OSP and the decision he's decided to take?
I think that the OSP so far has tried to be engaging and be flexible, giving Mr. Ofori-Atta and his team an opportunity to provide credible enough evidence and documentation as to the health situation and any medical interventions that were required. It appears that the team, Mr. Ofori-Atta, has not delivered on what is required to validate the position that Mr. Ofori-Atta is not well, and these specific medical interventions have to be done as an emergency or otherwise. And I think that's unfortunate. I think that there's been enough time provided for them to have to give the necessary documentation to assure the special prosecutor that all of this is legitimate, and that eventually Mr. Ofori-Atta will turn himself in. So I'm not too surprised that the special prosecutor is considering putting him back on the wanted list.
The lawyer for Kenneth Ofori-Atta says that the OSP's action is in bad faith because he's communicated to them that he is sick. And why is it difficult for people to accept the man is sick?
Of course, I think the SP has explained. In fact, earlier today, somebody asked me about this, and even without hearing the SP, from the very first 2 engagements, the OSP was saying, listen, you haven't brought any medical report on the letterhead of an institution or medical facility that has contacts that allows us to do the due diligence and verification to say outside your own statement, your personal opinion, that there is an entity with the expertise that is confirming that you have such and such condition and at such and such time you're going through a special medical procedure. That hasn't happened. And it is the minimum that any state agency that has been mandated, as it were, to follow up on issues of corruption will do. In fact, we would describe the special prosecutor as having been seriously irresponsible if any such suspect, in quotes, or individual who is alleged to have engaged themselves in corruption just came and said, I'm not well, and provided a lab report or something else without a medical support that where a doctor with, the credentials that all of us can accept on a letterhead or with some kind of credibility is able to say, this is the situation, this is what we're going to do, and this is how soon we think he'll be available. That hasn't happened since this thing started in January. And that's where I think that the special prosecutor has been accommodating, but I don't think that Mr. Ofori-Atta and his team have taken this opportunity to make good the credibility of the information they are providing, so that the special prosecutor then will be assured and not take further action.
For sickness, you can't give a timeline. Mr. Frank Davis says that I can agree with you, Mr. Senanu, that I will come and see you tomorrow. Maybe tonight something would happen and I'll be sick and I can't make it. So I can't give a timeline as to when I'll be well to be able to come for that meeting. So in health situations, maybe timelines cannot be given in this circumstance, can it?
I think that you've moved the bar. The fundamental issue is not even the timeline. The fundamental issue is who is confirming that Mr. Ofori-Atta has a medical condition that prevents him from being physically available as is required in this criminal investigation. He says
his doctors
confirms that there will be an intervention at a certain point. That hasn't happened. That's the first thing. If we are able to validate that a credible institution is saying that yes, there's this condition, yes, he's in our facility, yes, we intend to do some medical procedure at such and such time, we are not too sure when it will end, but we'll update you. That will suffice as a foundational, piece of information. It hasn't happened.
But in the said letter, the OSP made allusion to the fact that they say now the surgery is going to take place on 13th June 2025.
Whatever documentation they provided still doesn't have the credibility of an institution that we know. It is a letter that is probably without a letterhead, without a medical facility or doctors, and usually this one we don't want a personal doctor owner. You want a medical facility of the kind of repute where you say you are going to the US. Which facility are you dealing with the US? Why aren't they the ones providing information? That even raises more eyebrows. What is so difficult about getting the medical facility that says is going to perform the procedure, that says you have this condition, from writing and confirming that this is the situation? What is so difficult for you to facilitate an engagement between the OSP's officials and the officials in that entity, the professionals, the doctors, so everybody knows that this is legit? It raises questions. If you just write something on a piece of paper with no letterhead, or you go to any lab and bring the lab report and the lab report says you have A, B, and C, how are we supposed to work with that? Nobody would take the special prosecutor seriously if they did that.
So now that he's back on the wanted list and is been released, is on the website of the special prosecutor, wanted by Office of the Special Prosecutor, Kenneth Ofori-Atta. They describe him, and then the reasons for him being wanted is also there, and they've provided a number which people who know his whereabouts can contact the special prosecutor. And then he's also back on the Interpol red notice. They are signing extradition processes. What should Mr. Ofori-Atta's lawyers and even he himself or his doctors do for the OSP and even Ghanaians to know that, look, you're not making up the sickness, but this is a genuine case where the man cannot turn up or show up?
Well, I have 3 comments. I think it's probably too little too late, because by now this message has been repeated where they were required to provide a medical report bearing the credentials, the logo, and the contacts of a facility that is credible, so that the OSP could do his background check and confirm. This is what they always do on all such cases: background checks and due diligence on the individuals and what they are saying. That should have happened long ago. It's 5 months late, so to speak. That would be a good start. It may, if they're able to provide that now, it may sway the OSP, but I think that they've taken so long, it may be very difficult even at this stage. Having said that, the other thing is just simply that Mr. Ofori-Atta should make himself physically available to answer the questions required of him, because the cases are varied, the sums involved are substantive, and certainly the good people of this country would want to know what exactly he can provide in terms of information, so that we get to the bottom of the monies that have been lost and retrieve as much of that as possible, if not all of it. So he has a few options. Get a credible medical report with the details and contacts, facilitate an engagement so you can confirm that indeed this is the case. It doesn't make sense that 5 months that has not happened. The second option is, if he's been hale and hearty these 5 months, has not had to check into a medical facility, then he must be in a condition to answer questions. In fact, I keep saying that all the meetings he has had with his lawyers so far, it would have been a fraction of that time to spend with the OSP. The time and energy he's going to spend with his lawyers, probably just a fraction of that to have dispensed of his engagement with the OSP. He can make himself available and just demonstrate that he is overboard, he has nothing to hide, and therefore he's willing to answer the questions.
In the absence of these two, can he be forced back to Ghana?
Well, once he's been put on the wanted list, it means that if he is found crossing any international lines, he might get himself arrested and brought back home. So, especially if he's in a territory where we have an extradition treaty or bilateral agreements that cover that, that is likely to bring him home. So, I think that's for him and his team to consider his options and take the relevant necessary action.
Away from the Kenneth Ofori-Atta matter, another one that the special prosecutor talked about is the Cecilia Dapa case. He says that the new leadership of YOCO have requested for that docket and they are going to reopen investigations into this matter. A lot of anti-graft campaigners, including yourself, you have had cause to complain about how the Cecilia Dapa case has gone. With YOCO taking over, how do you feel?
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, my position was that YOCO refused to act on its own mandate. The law was very clear that any monies that could not be traced to a legitimate source will be considered proceeds from criminal activities, and the state has the right to seize it or to act on it. And YOCO had refused to do that. They kept saying they had to consult the AG, and the AG said it wasn't necessary. All of that didn't wash for many of us. It really, in the light of the existing law. So if YOCO has been now so minded as to take it up, I think it's the right place because their law covers this. They are probably the only entity in Ghana now that has that kind of clause that looks at this kind of monies that or properties that cannot be legitimately validated. So I think it's good news, and we'll be looking forward to seeing what the current leadership will do.
One would say that, okay, special prosecutor holds press conferences, gives the people hope, but when the cases come in the long run, he goes to court and it looks like the vim he started with, I mean, it's quite disappointing. And another suggestion somebody brought about is that YOCO and Office of the Special Prosecutor should be meshed if they want to really have the impact in dealing with these corrupt activities. What do you think?
I disagree on both. I think that I think you need to look at current news. I think they've won some cases recently. I think that we shouldn't forget that it's only I think in the last quarter of 2023 that the OSP then got its full complement. So since about 2018, 2019, when they were set up, really they had no staff for the first 3-4 years. And it's only in the last year and a half or so that they've had the full complement, or let's say adequate complement of staff. All of that would weigh on the quality of work done. I think that also for any institution that is starting, our expectations were high, but they are gradually making a lot of inroads. So far, the OSP has been the only institution that has regularly taken up cases of existing public officers in government. You know, most of our anti-corruption agencies have shied away from dealing with cases of people in government and handling it. That's a high-risk zone. So they've come under a lot of attack and flack. I think that they have done well to still exist and continue to keep their chins up and to give us feedback on what is going on. I think that it can only get better in terms of the service they offer and in ensuring that high-profile cases are dealt with.
Mr. Senanu, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Edam Senanu is the co-chair of the